So in today's podcast, we have on Tyler Stewart, a FLW Pro Circuit angler. He's done well in the past. I think one of his best finishes, I could be wrong, but I believe one of his best finishes was Lake Champlain, where he was in the top 10. Just recently posted a 26th place finish in the first stop of the FLW Pro Circuit at Sam Rayburn. So we're going to talk a little about that, a little bit how he likes the new format, talk a little bit about fishing professionally and how he got to where he is today, and talk about his YouTube channel he has as well. A little bit kind of scattered, but I'm going to try to see if I can push him to keep working with that. But I'm really interested to see what he's got to say and pick his brain a little bit and learn about Tyler, and hope you guys are excited and enjoy today's podcast. All right, we are just about ready. I think he's ready. So I got his number right here. We're going to give him a call and get him on the podcast and see what he's got to say. So I'm pretty excited.
Hello.
Hello, Tyler?
What's going on, man?
What's going on, dude?
Just rolled into Leesburg, Florida.
You excited?
I'm ready to roll.
The next stop on the Pro Circuit. Yeah, for people not following his social media, he had quite the drive today.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't too bad. It was 9 hours, so got on the road, got it knocked out this morning. So just rolled in, and now we're actually at the grocery store grabbing some stuff, getting ready for the week. So
Cool. Did I get you at a bad time, or are we all set?
no, we're good.
Cool. All right. I guess before we kind of roll into everything, if you just want to explain to me and everybody listening, maybe a little bit about yourself, and then how you got into fishing and who instilled that passion in you that you have today.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Tyler Stewart, 25 years old, and this is my third year on the FLW tour. It's kind of a crazy story. I actually raced motocross for 15 years of my life, and got hurt real bad in 2010, and actually got blind in my left eye. And that was actually the route that I was pursuing to try to make a career at, is racing motocross. And I'd always fished for a hobby, when I was younger, and did the motocross, full time. And I don't know, after I had that accident, it messed my deck perception up and made it where I couldn't race anymore. So I jumped into like some high school stuff, fishing some high school tournaments and stuff, did okay. And then fast forward to college, we won some regionals and some Southern Conference championships, stuff like that with FLW and BASS. And then that kind of led me to get my foot into the door to where I am now, fishing the FLW tour. And luckily, I've got a awesome title sponsor with Monster Energy, and actually had them when, I've had that relationship with them that kind of jumped over from motocross. So that's luckily that's a good thing that I've got going. So without them, I wouldn't be able to do this.
Dude, that is crazy, man. I mean, I had a cousin that he grew up doing motocross, and I can't remember what the specific injury was, but he had to had surgery and had almost like a cage around his arm where bars were going through it, and he had it for 2 years. There's something nuts, and it's that sport. People that participate in that sport, you don't mess around. That's
it's like a life commitment too. I mean, if you want, to compete in that deal, you're spending every single. You got to be homeschooled. You ain't got time to go to school or anything. It's every day full on. From the time you start when you're 4 or 5, 6 years old, and then by the time you're 12 or 13, you're living you're full blast, living with trainers and doing your deal every single day. So it's definitely a different lifestyle than most kids live.
Dude, that is unreal. I guess I'm kind of curious. Have you spent more gas money in fishing than you did motocross, or were you pumping out more gas than that?
I don't know. I left Gainesville, Florida today on the way down here, and that's actually where one of our nationals used to be. It brought back a bunch of memories. I don't know. I think we probably put just as many, if not more, miles on the truck racing motocross than fishing. Because we got 8 stops on the FLW tour, including the championship, and we were going every single week and weekend, for racing. So it was. I'd be willing to say we put just as many, if not more, back then. So.
Sheesh. Yeah, I can't even imagine. I mean, you go from traveling all over the country for one thing right to the next.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm kind of used to that lifestyle, though. I kind of grew up doing it. So, 9 hours today just didn't seem too bad. It wasn't bad at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was one thing I was kind of curious about, because you don't see guys having, like a Red Bull or anything like that non-endemic sponsor that you have. And I was sitting there, and there's one thing I was thinking about today is, like, I wonder how he landed that. But, like, that's exactly why.
Explained a lot of it, because, that's actually, I was with, in the Bahamas last week with one of the big guys at Monster. That's, who I was with last week. So I've got a good relationship with them, and, they get 100 emails a day from guys wanting to sponsor them, and they're just they're not involved in it yet. So,
well, man, I definitely tell that you have a story that they like, or you're somebody they believe in. So, kudos to you, and that's an incredible story, and it's crazy to see, bouncing back from that, not taking, the sulking route, I guess. Not saying you didn't have any right to, but at the same time, I mean, you kind of found something, you had an obstacle, and you couldn't compete with what you're passionate about, but you found a new passion and you ran with it.
Right. And honestly, I mean, after my accident, it took a toll on me for sure for at least a couple of years. I mean, to dedicate your entire life to something, planning on doing one thing, and then it all get taken away from you in just one crash, and so. Yeah, I was really, really down about it. But like I said, back when I was racing and stuff, every chance I got, I'd go fish ponds, and every time I'd get my dad to take me fishing and stuff, every chance we got, and I always thought, man, it'd be cool to do this for a living. And then after I got hurt, getting the opportunity to do it was really crazy, and felt super fortunate to be able to do it.
Yeah. Dude, and you feel free to tell me to shut up for this question, but you said you had issues with depth perception, and for people that fish know that depth perception is huge.
Right. Well, see, the good thing about fishing is, like, my depth perception is okay when I'm like throwing at stuff.
Yeah.
Or when I'm going towards something. It's when stuff's coming at me that it really messes me up. So, like, if you throw a baseball to me or something, that type, when it's coming at me is when it really bothers me. Like, but when I'm casting or throwing something to somebody or something like that, it's not that big of a deal. But, as soon as they turn around and throw something to me, there's no shot at me catching it.
Jeez. Man, that's wild. I had no idea.
It's affected my driving skills and stuff a little bit, too. I mean, like, I'll find myself sitting at a stop sign for 5 minutes sometimes. I think these cars are, about to be there, and I'll be waiting for 30 seconds. Could have went 10 times, but
it almost
never be too careful.
I'm one where I'm guilty as charged, where I can kind of be impatient when I'm driving sometimes, and that kind of puts a new perspective in my mind. That next time I'm being impatient with somebody in front of me, maybe they're in your kind of situation.
Yeah, like I'm thinking, like this dude, there's no way I can pull out. I'm gonna get ran over, and then 30 seconds later, I'm like, I could still go right now.
I guess it's good that you're taking the humorous route of it and kind of taking the light side. So that's good.
Yes, sir. So
yeah. So then you said tournaments really started for you in high school. Is that pretty much you ran wild with it, or is it like, did you know at that point that that's what you wanted to do, or are you just kind of doing it because you're passionate about it?
Well, I mean, in high school, I mean, it's just that was the only other hobby that I had other than motocross. So I jumped into it and just put all of my effort into that, and never in a million years thought that I would get to the place where I am now. But just hope for that chance or that opportunity, and like I said, just kind of bounced around. I was homeschooled, and then I jumped back in high school, and like my last year, and then ended up getting homeschooled again, and then didn't go back until college. But once I got to college, that's when I really, really started putting as much effort as I could into it. So, after like my third year of college, we won a few big tournaments and stuff, and did well in the national championship and all that stuff. And that's when I really, pressed to try to get to where I am now.
And which school did you go to?
ULM, University, Louisiana Monroe.
Yep.
And we've actually got, 3 guys that have came through that program that are fishing professionally now. We got Brett Pruitt, who's on the Elite Series, and then Hunter Freeman, and then myself. So
that's awesome.
It's been a good team.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And this is your first year on the pro circuit, but technically your third year with the FLW.
Right.
Nice. How is I'm kind of curious if it, because there's the switch, obviously, to the pro circuit. What is it? Is there any adjustments you've had to make coming into this year?
Not really. I mean, it seems pretty similar to the past 2 years. I mean, we've only done one tournament, but as far as the way the tournaments are in and the organization and stuff, I mean, it still feels like normal FLW. So I really like that. I'm glad they didn't change any of the format rules and stuff like that. So there really wasn't any crazy adjustments coming in. So.
Yeah, I've heard that it's still the same FLW. I think the only negative I've heard is the entry fee. But I guess in your mind, I guess with the new format, are you able to give like a positive and a negative, or is it pretty much kind of the same as the FLW that you've known since you've been in?
Well, like I said, the entry fee going up, that kind of sucks a little bit. But in return, now 75 out of 150 guys are getting, going home with the check. So you lose some and you gain some. So, I mean, it's hard to say which route was better, but, I'll say it. I've told a million people this is, I don't care how they do it, as long as I'm a part of it. As long as I'm getting a fish, that's the main deal for me. I don't care if it's, MLF format, 5-fish format. I mean, I'm not going to turn any of it down.
Yeah. As long as, you're financially and physically able, you as long as you can, commit to your dream, you're fine with whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome. I love that personality. I love that look out on things. Because I think, a lot of guys are very fortunate for what they do fishing professionally. But I think sometimes, and this goes for anybody, whether they're a fan, professional angler, weekend warriors, people kind of forget the importance of, you're getting to fish,
Getting to fish, yeah.
You could
hear
be
all these guys complaining and stuff, and
yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a job. I mean, I'm not going to take that away. It's a job,
100%,
getting
100%.
up and driving, anywhere from 10 to 20 hours, and then putting a hard weekend. I mean, and then going home without getting paid. I mean, it can suck for sure.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, it's still, I think it still beats the heck out of a regular 9 to 5 for sure.
Oh yeah. Any guy will take the grind on the road fishing than stuck in a cubicle 9 to 5. So any guy would take that. But for you, is it just the FLW this year, or is there any other maybe local derbies you're doing or anything?
I thought about fishing the opens as well, but I'm just going to stick with FLW. I might jump in a few coasters or DFLs throughout the year if the schedule lines up for me to get in. But I just really wanted to focus all my time and effort into the pro circuit. So
Nice. Let me ask you this then: with the schedule you guys have,
Mhm.
is there any tournament that's kind of highlighted for you that you're more excited for than others?
Uh, it seems like every time we go somewhere I've been to before, I do worse at, but I've had some really good success at Lake Dardanelle. I've fished a ton of college tournaments there, and actually fished the high school world championship there. I've been there a ton of times, so I mean, I'm excited to go there. But I wouldn't say I have a leg up on anybody going there. It's one of the places that's it changes all the time, but I am excited to go there.
It's one lake that I don't know much about. I mean, even from reading into it, on my downtime, I get curious and I like to read. Unlike many people my age, not many of us read anymore, but I like to just read about different bodies of water and different stories and whatnot. But I bet you're kind of wishing you can go back to Lake Champlain.
Yeah, Champlain was good to me. Unfortunately, the last day I didn't have a very good day, but the first 3 days were fun, and I think that it just kind of lined up. That tournament just lined up for me. I mean, the water was high, and I wasn't really getting many bites. But I think as the tournament progressed, once the water started coming down and there was current around everything I was fishing, and it just grouped all those fish up like really tight where I was fishing. And I went from getting like 1 or 2 bites in practice to 8 to 10 in the tournament. It was just getting better and better, and
Mm-hmm.
it just lined up. It was just meant to be for me to do well at that tournament, I guess. But I still wouldn't say that was my favorite tournament ever, because that run down there is brutal.
Yeah, it is. It's a big lake, and but I mean, I guess a lot of guys, when you think about the North, a lot of pros they bring up Champlain and how much fun Champlain could be. Is because you have that very healthy mix of smallmouth and largemouth, and I remember you took the largemouth side. I remember there's video of you. I think it was you were sitting in front of a pipe and it was raining, and I couldn't remember what you were throwing, but you were whacking them, and it looked like everybody was having a ball, even outside of competing, just fishing up there.
Oh, it was cool. So I had a pipe, and I had a bridge, and both of which, like I said, had a little some current flowing through it, and there was just a lot of fish sitting at both of those spots, and I'd catch a limit off of them, and then I'd go flip bushes for the rest of the day and catch 2 or 3 big ones. So it was I don't know, it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to going back one day. So
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of guys in their downtime when they can actually kind of travel a little bit and fish where they want. I'm not saying everybody, but there's a few that do come up here and fish the St. Lawrence, Lake Ontario, Champlain, different things here and there. New York, that's where I'm at right now. We're a little bit spoiled with our fisheries.
yeah,
From the Great Lakes to the Finger Lakes to Champlain and the river. So you get a whole mix of different stuff. But you meant.
right. It's hard for me to go fun fishing anywhere other than the house. We got so many good lakes right by my house. We got Rayburn a couple hours away, Toledo Bend, and then the lake that I live real close by is Caney Lake, and
Mm-hmm.
I spend 99% of my time there. It's just a 5,000-acre lake in Louisiana, but it's got a bunch of really big ones, and they get offshore. And there's hydrilla. I mean, it's just a good it's a good place for me to practice on, because a lot of our tournaments we go to during the year relate to that place.
Yeah, and that's my a good buddy of mine, a very good friend of mine, Forrest Buchan is from. He lived on Caney Lake, and that's all he talks about is how all this bunch of state records come from there, and how he loves fishing there in Toledo Bend, and how
Yeah,
good Caney Lake is. He brings it up almost every other time we talk to each other. I have to tell him to shut up and stop talking about it.
Caney Lake
Yeah.
is a good place. It's an awesome place. I mean, like I said, it's hard to get me away from that place. I mean, if I'm gonna go fun fishing, I'm just gonna drive 20 minutes away from the house and fish Caney.
Oh
Because
yeah,
I mean,
why
it's
not, right?
full of 10 pounders.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think anybody else would, do anything different. Uh, I know for one I would. It's hard for me to get away from my smallmouth up here, but
And that's one thing I probably need to do. I probably need to go spend some time on some smallmouth fisheries, but it seems like we only go to 1 or 2 a year, and I've actually done okay when we did go to them. I went to Well, I fished for largemouth at one of them, so I guess it don't count. But I did kind of check at at not Champlain, St. Clair my first year. So hopefully I'll be able to do that again this year.
Yeah, that's another amazing smallmouth fishery, and going for largemouth at Champlain isn't as bad as Hunter Shryock going for largemouth on St. A little bit different.
Yeah, that's probably like unheard of, huh?
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, he put up a big bag though. He came in and guys are weighing in like 20 plus for smallmouth, and he walks in with 22 pounds of largemouth, and people are like, "Which lake did you go to? You didn't go to the river." It's it was interesting. It's like you weren't expecting to see greenfish whatsoever in that tournament, but it's
it'd be like weighing in greenfish at St. Clair probably.
Yeah, I don't think
I don't even know where to catch them there.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard of greenfish being caught in St. Clair. It's interesting. I'm curious to see if what the Detroit River puts up. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I've never been there. Oh, this year, like talking about where we're going this year, the last event.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll be able to go to St. Clair or Erie, so that'll be good.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting to see how guys kind of strategize that. Like who was gonna stay in the river, who would go out to the main lake. I don't know how much of the main lake are they allowing you guys.
Yeah, I'm not even sure yet.
Is that kind of like your for each tournament when you guys arrive, kind of deal?
Well, they supposedly Canada is going to be off limits for a portion of the practice or something. I don't know if they changed that or not, but I'll probably look into it more when the tournament gets here. But
it's a long ways.
Yeah, we got a while, so I'm not too worried about that right now. I got to figure out how to catch these Florida bass.
100%. I mean, I know guys have recently they've been smashing them down there, but it's also been kind of streaky because that cold front they had moved through. But
right.
I mean, you're starting off the year pretty strong. 26 at Sam Rayburn. So it's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely couldn't ask for anything more. The way I started off last year was terrible. It's hard to dig yourself out of that hole when you get going like that. And the year before that, my rookie year, I started off my first tournament ever. I think I got 12th at Okeechobee, and
wow.
That was a really fun tournament. So that's kind of what got me going, and
sounds like it.
Made me believe that I could do this, and so that was a good tournament for me.
You're still going 3 years strong, just starting out.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
3 years strong. So
it'll be interesting to see how that tournament shakes out. I think you guys are going to have a better swing just because the water's had a little bit of time to warm up. Since that cold front moved through. I mean, guys were in jackets down there, so I think you're gonna. Hopefully, you guys have shorts and flip flops.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty warm down here now. I mean we got. I'm outside now. It's probably 60 degrees, 65, 70 degrees, somewhere like that.
That's nice and comfy.
So I think we'll be in shorts and flip flops all week.
I'm jealous. It was I was out ice fishing today, and it was -2 with 10-mile-an-hour winds. So you can imagine how cold I was.
I can't even imagine. The coldest I've ever been, it was like 10 degrees with 20-mile-an-hour winds, and that was deer hunting. And I told myself I would never, ever do that again.
Yeah, I looked over at my buddy today, and I'm like, I told myself I'd never have a limit, but I think I found it.
I just can't imagine. I guess you guys got clothes.
We had layers. I had probably 3 layers of gloves on. I could barely even jig because my hands were so fat with layers. It was. It came to the point where we put out just tip ups, and we just sat there trying to stay warm. And hopefully a flag would go, so we have an excuse to run and warm up. So it was, it's not the best. We're definitely ready for spring here for sure, 100%.
I'd like to experience that one day, though. I'd like to go ice fishing, something like that. Would be cool.
Yeah, dude. I mean. I think your best place to go do it, just because it's so hit or miss up here in New York. Minnesota is probably one of your best places to go to for that.
I got you.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of great anglers up there that I've heard from a few buddies that fish up there. Pretty much when you go out ice fishing, that community, you get a couple guys that are cranky, but pretty much when you go out there and be like, hey, I don't know how to ice fish, you have like 30 guys showing you what to do, trying to catch put you on fish. It's a cool little kind of community up there, and even ice fishing in general. But it's fun. You can either choose your hole hopping, trying to jig for different things, or you can choose your lazy route where you bring the grill and some beer and you relax out, in your shanty and you put your tip ups up and you you stay warm. It's all dependent on if you want to be lazy or a little bit proactive.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd
Yeah.
like to see that for sure.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And one thing I wanted to bring up too, because I noticed you had a YouTube channel, and I noticed you only had like 2 videos. Is that something you're going to be pursuing this year at all, or is that just kind of just there on the afterburner?
Well, I mean, I really wanted to try to get back on it this year and start posting a lot. I actually had a camera guy last year that moved to California, and we made, I think, one of those videos. I can't remember which guy made those 2 videos, but I've got another guy now. His name's Matt Green, and he lives by me, and we're going to try to do some filming this year. So hopefully we'll get some more stuff on YouTube going up.
I think I've heard of him. He's a young kid, isn't he?
Yeah, he's young. He lives right down the road from me. He's got a YouTube channel, and he's actually went and filmed for Zaldane and stuff. And
Yes.
I think
Yep.
Bassmaster did an article on him or something a couple
Yep.
months ago.
Yeah, I think I've seen him recently do some football videos. He's a wizard with the camera.
Yeah, he's really good, and he's only 15 years old, and
Wow.
he's really, really good. It's crazy to see how talented he is. I mean, I've been around cameras for a long time, and I've seen guys take weeks to put a video together. He'll put one together in 30 minutes. You're just like, golly, that's crazy.
I mean, that's it's this generation, man. It's just
I wish I could load him up with me and take him to all these tournaments, but he's in school, so we gotta film and do our stuff when he's not in school. And I'm just not computer and technology savvy enough to really do it myself, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. It's cool though. I mean, at his age, to be able to do that and travel with you and Zaldane, and you guys taking him under your wing on the fishing side, but him schooling you on how to edit and film and stuff. That's awesome, man. Especially at 15, that kid has so much potential.
Absolutely, and he's a great kid. He likes to fish, so he's that's one deal. It's hard to find is someone who's genuinely into fishing and the outdoor industry.
Yeah.
To come film. There's a lot of people around the house that film that really don't understand, what shots to get, what's cool, what's not. He understands and he knows, what to get. It works out really well.
Yeah, it has that that freelance creative mindset. Not just going on there and be like, all right, I've seen this shot done before, but to be able to kind of make your own. And I think that's what I've seen with him, which is pretty cool. And that position, that media, that content creation, film, that's in high demand these days.
Yeah, I think when he gets out of school, he'll be able to do really whatever he wants to do with that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys do together once school's over for him. I'm surprised he's. I mean,
yeah, he's like
good for him.
I think he's probably a junior or sophomore. I think he's a sophomore this year in high school. So
15.
He's got a few more years left.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. So, looking at 2020, I know you have obviously the FLW, and you said you might do a couple Costas. YouTube's kind of here and there, depending on if you can get video. But you got any plans aside, like any fishing trips or even anything non-fishing, anything big in the works for 2020?
Not really fishing related. I mean, I obviously have the tour, and I'll be fishing pretty much nonstop, between now and August, and in between tournaments, I guide on Caney as well. So that keeps me pretty busy. But once October gets here, I'm pretty much in the woods hunting from them and then until December. So I'll try to spend as much time as I can doing that in the winter.
Well, I'll tell you, if you tag out, in the fall, you got to come up to New York and get on some fall smallmouth. That's where it's at.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Which lake?
Erie's a good one. Ontario, the river, pretty much any of the Finger Lakes up here too. It just seems like the smallmouth get way more active when the largemouth kind of die down. So it's
Yeah, I'll have to get in on that. Hopefully, I'll tag out early.
yeah. Well, get your trail cams up, get your work in, and go tag out, boy, and get up here and fish.
I need to. I need somebody to show me how to catch some smallmouth.
It's a lot of fun, man. It's I like to call them stupid, and sometimes they can be very smart and they make me look stupid. But majority of the time, it's the hardest part is really finding them, and
Right.
and there's really not a lot of patterns that they won't hit on. For the most time, if you get it in front of their face, you're gonna get bit, no matter the size. Um, there's not really too often where, weather permitting, smallmouth aren't very stubborn. They're pretty dumb once you can find them. I mean, that's very evident when you look at the spawn. I mean, it takes 3 casts to catch a smallmouth on a bed, where it takes
Yeah.
30 to 40 for a largemouth. So it's it's different, but it's just different breed. And one thing that I've discussed with a couple of people, and I'm trying to get different opinions because I want to find actually a biologist to talk to us about. But I think there's 2 different strains of largemouth. I think there's 2 different strains of smallmouth, like a northern and
Really?
southern strain. Just because that southern strain, and you take a 5-pounder, and you have a 5-pound smallmouth that's 23, 24 inches maybe in the south is 19 inches up here.
Right.
And I think obviously they're built different, obviously because wintering seasons are different. They stunt growth, but I think they just look different. So I think
That
there's
is
almost 2
true.
different
I mean, you
strains.
catch one on Table Rock, it don't look anything like when you catch on St. Clair.
Exactly, 100%. So that's one thing I want to figure out. I mean, I could be just BSing right now, but I would love to get a biologist on the phone and be like, hey, drop some knowledge on me. What do you think? So
Yeah, that'd be some good information to have for sure.
yeah, and that was an idea. I can't take all the credit for it. Alex Rudd, I don't know if you know him on YouTube. He gave me that idea. It's interesting to kind of think about. But
So you spend a lot of time on YouTube watching different anglers and stuff.
yeah, so pretty much when I don't have time on the water, I'm working. I work for Douglas Rods up here in Syracuse, New York, and then if I'm not working or fishing, I'm usually watching YouTube, reading articles. I'm trying to learn as much as I can, and then which kind of pisses the old lady off because if I'm with her, I'm watching fishing videos all the time. But if I'm not doing that either, then I'm editing fishing videos. So my whole world now kind of revolves around fishing. So
Fishing.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing for it to revolve around fishing.
yeah, there could be a lot worse things. 100%. Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, like I said on the YouTube deal, I mean, I'm gonna try to get it going, try to spend some more time doing it. I know that's where everything's going. I mean, even older guys around the house, they're talking about something Scott Martin said on YouTube or something. I'm just thinking like, golly, all these people are watching YouTube that much. And,
yeah,
I mean,
it's taken over,
people
man.
are. I mean, it's like nobody watches regular TV anymore. They just Google or YouTube whatever they want to watch and watch it. So
yeah, YouTube is taking over, man. Streaming services. There won't be any TV in a couple of years. I'm telling you right now.
oh, I'm sure it won't. It's just crazy. I mean, to me, it's just what bothers me about YouTube is there's just so many people on there that just like are so negative. Like you read comments and it's just people blasting each other. Like I don't know. I just try to stay away from it. I guess because of that.
It's pretty much I had a great conversation with, I don't know if you know Benjamin Nowak. He's now he changed his channel name to the Smallmouth Experience, but talk about a guy that's very knowledgeable, and you probably know him because he traveled around with the FLW a bit. He did film with like Jody White and whatnot, and him and I were talking. There's such a surplus of YouTube channels. There's so many going on where obviously it's hard to kind of find those hidden gems where guys are actually putting up good content, but they're hidden behind the mass amount of production. And eventually it's going to die out. But the biggest thing is, the people who are going to shine at the end are the ones that are passionate about what they put out, and they don't really care about what anybody else thinks. They put out, if you're passionate about your content, then that's really all that matters. Those are the ones that are going to stay in the game for a while. So
Right.
it's kind of interesting. If you're in it for the right reasons, it's fun. And there's going to be people out there that have a lot of negativity, and it's just pretty much you got to think of it as like that's just a bot. You can just delete them, block them, don't even ignore them, and who cares? They're making themselves look stupid on the internet. You're doing what you love. And that's really all that matters at the end of the day. So
Right. Right.
yeah,
I feel you. I got you on that for
yeah,
sure.
100%. Yeah, so we're gonna change it to a little our segment here before we wrap up. But before we do, I wanted to allot you any time to give any shout outs, whether it's pro staff, friends, family, any social media where people can find you. Figured I'd give you some time to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I like to, shout out to my family and all my sponsors that helped me get here. And, yeah, without them, this wouldn't be possible. I mean, I've got so many of them, you don't have time for me to name them all, but you can, see all of them and me on all my social media stuff. I've got Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and it's all under T-Stu99. So if you put that in, it should pop up. So.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean your logo on Instagram looks like the monster logo in itself.
Yeah, yeah.
I always get confused with that sometimes when your name pops up in like your recommended searches or whatever. That's what I think. I think monster until I realize, oh, that's Tyler's page. Never mind.
Yep. So,
that's funny.
So yeah, like I said, that's you can find me on all that, and yeah, I don't have a picture on Instagram. It's actually the logo. So
just look for the monster looking logo, and that's him.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll link all that down in the description for people to go follow you. And if you're not, you definitely need to. You don't want to miss out. So we'll link that there, and then we're gonna phase into this last segment here. I have 2 questions for you, pretty much to wrap up the podcast. A little bit fun questions because they're kind of thought provoking and kind of it's funny because it stumps a lot of people because they're not ready for it. So it's fun. And basically, the first one is if you could sit down and have dinner with 3 people, any 3 people, whether past or present, doesn't have to be in the fishing industry, just to sit down and pick their brain, who would you invite?
You say it doesn't have to be in the fishing industry, but being that the fishing industry interests me more than anything else, I would have to say I want to sit down with Brian Thrift, John Cox, and Jacob Wheeler. If I could get them 3 at a table and pick them 3 apart, that'd probably be a good dinner for sure. I
would say those are probably the 3 biggest names in fishing right now, and probably the 3 biggest that pop up for a lot of people. 100%.
No doubt.
Yeah, I mean, Jacob Wheeler is on a tear, and Thrift's not used to the format. Comes out and pops a 2nd place finish in his first ever event. I mean, sheesh. It's talk about a bunch of hammer. Cox wins the first FLW Pro Tour Circuit. I mean, that would be sick to see him win one on FLW and Bass. That would be unbelievable to watch. I mean, he would go down as one of the greatest of all time if he accomplished that feat.
He's already one of the greatest of all time. But
100%.
To do that, it honestly wouldn't surprise me. I mean, really would. When he comes into the weigh-in line and he says, I got lucky today. I picked up a crankbait going out in the middle of the lake, caught 2 5-pounders on back-to-back casts. It honestly just doesn't even surprise me anymore.
Yeah, it's like, that kind of guy, you'd expect him to go to, like, St. Clair and throw a frog out in 30 foot and catch a 6-pound smallmouth. And he's like, yeah, I got lucky, threw a frog.
Yeah, that's what John Cox does. I ain't going to sit here and say he gets lucky, but he tells people he gets lucky. But Anybody with any sense knows that he's just, there ain't many people like him that, as knowledgeable as him. And Brian Thrift, too.
Yeah, 100%. You can't argue with that. So, my last question for you is plain and simple. First thing that comes to your mind, and it's your favorite fishing memory.
My favorite what?
Favorite fishing memory.
Favorite fishing memory? Probably getting to fish the Forest Wood Cup in 2018. That was a really cool experience. That was my rookie year. And I got to fish the cup. I did well in it, but it was just really cool being on the big stage and getting to do that. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, you getting out to motor out and looking around and realize you made it to the big stage.
Yeah, that was really cool. So hopefully we'll get to do it again and our new deal. So
Yeah, I have no doubt that you'll make it back there. You're on the right track with that tournament over at Sam Rayburn, and now your focus is on Florida. I'll be watching for you, and I wish you the best. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hop on here and talk to me and all the listeners. It was a good time.
I appreciate it, man. And yeah, anytime. Thanks for calling, and I'll be looking forward to the next one.
Heck yeah, yeah! I would love to have you back on here. Mid-season update or postseason update would definitely enjoy the time to have you back on here.
Sounds good, dude. Just give me a call anytime.
Will do, man. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, bud.
Yep, take it easy. All right, so that was a blast talking to Tyler. What a story! Oh my gosh, I had no idea. I don't know if listeners had any idea, but was into motocross, and I kind of had that vibe, knowing because he was sponsored by Monster, but I'd never really known it. And when he said it to me, I'm like, that just it makes perfect sense. That's kind of why he has that brand affiliation, but that's not the story. The story is, he gets into an accident, motocross when he was young, one that impacted his entire life, and his depth perception, as he spoke about, that is crazy. I think for a lot of fishermen, you can attest to having both your eyes working functionally is huge, and for him to be able to compete at that level with that, and I wouldn't say it's an impairment to him, that's incredible. And that takes a lot. That's an attest to his passion, his character, but not even that, his skills. This guy has a lot of potential. If you ever watched him before, you know what I'm talking about. Watch out for this guy. He's making waves. He's the new generation coming up through the industry. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. 26 on Rayburn already. It's off to a great start this year, and I'm excited to see where he's going to go. It was a blast to talk to him. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Go down into the description as always. Give him a follow. Hopefully he pumps out more content with his YouTube channel. If you guys aren't subscribed yet, head down to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Eichbird Outdoors. And if you want to listen to this podcast not on YouTube, you can go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, practically any podcast application, even the Angler app. There's our podcast right there as well. So thank you guys for listening, watching, wherever you are. And we'll see you guys next time.